In a Navy training facility on a cold morning, young recruits spotted an old mechanic working silently in the corner. His faded tattoo caught their attention, and they laughed, calling it prison ink and fake Navy wannabe. The old man said nothing. After a few minutes, an Admiral arrived for inspection. He saw the tattoo, his face went pale, and saluted the mechanic like he was royalty. "Captain Morrison, it's an honor, sir." The recruits' faces drained of color. "Before we dive in, tell us in comments section where in the world you are watching from." The Navy garage was loud and busy. Young recruits moved around with tools and equipment, their voices full of confidence. In the back corner, an old man worked quietly. His coveralls were faded and stained with grease. His hands were rough and scarred. Nobody paid attention to him. Then one recruit saw the tattoo on his arm. "Hey, look at this guy's ink," he shouted. The others walked over, grinning. The tattoo was big and faded, with strange symbols they didn't recognize. "Looks like prison work, man. Probably got it at some biker bar. Old dude thinks he's Navy or something." They laughed hard. One recruit saluted the tattoo like it was a joke. Another took a picture with his phone. The insults got louder, meaner. The old man didn't look up. His face stayed calm. His hands kept working, tightening bolts one by one. He said nothing, not a single word. But something flickered in his eyes, something they completely missed. The old man's hands paused for just a second. The laughter around him faded into background noise. For a moment, he wasn't in that garage anymore. He was 35 again. Commander Franklin Morrison, standing in the control room of the USS Alexandria, deep beneath the Persian Gulf. It was 1991, and the mission was supposed to be impossible. "Commander, we've got 15 men trapped on that platform. Enemy patrol boats closing in fast." Frank's voice had been steady then. Calm. "Take us up to periscope depth. We're getting them out. The submarine surfaced under enemy fire. Bullets pinged off the hull. Frank's crew worked like a machine. Ropes thrown, men pulled aboard one by one. 15 sailors. 15 lives that should have been lost. The extraction took 9 minutes. It felt like 9 hours. When they made it back to base, Frank didn't celebrate. He walked into a tattoo shop in port and sat down. Each symbol etched into his forearm represented one of those men. A life saved. A promise kept. The years that followed brought more missions, more danger. 3 Navy crosses pinned to his chest, promotions he never asked for, respect he never sought. Then came the call no sailor wants. His wife, Sarah, had collapsed at home. By the time he reached her, she was gone. Frank retired at 53. Not because he was tired, because the weight of command felt wrong without her waiting at home. He needed something quieter, something that still let him serve without leading men into danger. So he became a mechanic, a civilian, anonymous. He'd been fixing equipment at this base for 15 years now. Same coveralls, same corner, different life. The recruit's laughter pulled him back to the present. He blinked once, then returned to his work. They didn't need to know. Nobody did. The escalation. The breaking point. Frank tightened the last bolt and set down his wrench. The morning mockery should have ended there. It didn't. By mid-morning, the jokes had spread. One recruit in particular, Jake, 22, top of his training class, kept circling back. He'd glance at Frank's tattoo, whisper to his buddies, then laugh just loud enough to be heard. Each pass felt more deliberate. Lunch break came. Frank sat alone on a workbench, unwrapping a simple sandwich. Jake and 3 others approached, blocking the light. "Hey, old man, what's the story with that ink?" Frank looked up calmly. "It's personal." Jake smirked. "Personal? Come on, you can't rock a tattoo like that and not have a story." "I'd rather not talk about it." The recruits exchanged glances. Jake's grin widened. Right. Because there is no story. Probably got it done drunk and regretted it, huh? Frank said nothing. He wrapped up his sandwich and stood to leave. That's what I thought, Jake called after him. Within an hour, photos of Frank's tattoo were all over their group chats. Memes appeared. Captions like, "When you get military ink but never served," and "Stolen valor spotted" popped up on phones across the base. Other mechanics saw it. A few frowned but said nothing. Confronting recruits wasn't worth the trouble. Then the commanding officer's assistant walked through, glanced at someone's phone, and chuckled. That was all Jake needed. Validation from above. The afternoon got worse. Jake kept pushing. Comments turned sharper. Every time Frank moved, Jake was there, bumping into him, stepping in his way, making sure everyone saw. Frank's hands started to shake, just slightly. He gripped his wrench tighter, forcing them steady. Then it happened. Jake walked past Frank's toolbox and knocked it with his hip. Tools scattered across the concrete floor, wrenches, sockets, screwdrivers Frank had owned for decades, some rolled under equipment. Frank knelt slowly to gather them. His knees creaked. Jake stepped forward and planted his boot on Frank's hand. Not hard, just enough pressure to pin it, to humiliate. Careful, old man. Wouldn't want you breaking something. Frank looked up. For the first time all day, something flickered in his eyes. Not anger, something deeper, sadder. You don't know what you're doing, son. Jake laughed and lifted his boot. Whatever, Gramps. Frank picked up the last tool and returned to his station. The humiliation still hung in the air, but the day wasn't over yet. 2 hours later, an announcement crackled over the base speakers. Attention all personnel. Admiral Hayes will be conducting an inspection at 1600 hours. All stations prepare for immediate review. The garage exploded into motion. Recruits scrambled. Equipment was repositioned. Uniforms were straightened. Jake barked orders at his group, suddenly all business. Frank kept working. He'd seen inspections before. Then a shadow fell across his workbench. An older Master Chief stood there, 50s, gray at the temples, chest full of ribbons. He looked at Frank for a long moment. Still keeping your head down, aren't you? Frank glanced up briefly. It's easier this way, Chief. The Master Chief placed a hand on Frank's shoulder. The gesture carried weight, respect that couldn't be faked. He held it there for 3 seconds, then walked away without another word. Jake saw the whole thing. His brow furrowed. Why would a Master Chief show that kind of respect to a civilian mechanic? He shook it off. Probably nothing. Across the garage, Frank moved to a piece of equipment that had stumped 3 engineers that morning. He studied it for 30 seconds, made 2 adjustments, and it roared to life. A young ensign standing nearby stared in disbelief. She leaned toward her colleague. Do you know who that is? Her colleague shrugged. Some old mechanic. I think he's... She stopped herself, uncertain. Later, in the administration office, a junior officer fumbled with a stack of maintenance files. One slipped from his hands and hit the floor, papers scattering. He bent to gather them and froze. The name on top, Franklin J. Morrison. His eyes went wide. He looked toward the garage, but Frank had already moved to another station. Outside, Frank's phone buzzed. He stepped into the afternoon sun and answered. His entire posture changed. His voice dropped into something commanding. Tactical. Tell the Admiral I'm aware of the visit. I'll stay out of sight. Protocol is protocol. He hung up, rolled his shoulders, then walked back inside, hunched and quiet again. But on his forearm, visible for just a moment in the sunlight, the tattoo told a different story. A submarine insignia. Symbols around it. Ones only certain people would recognize. Something was coming. At exactly 1600 hours, the convoy arrived. 3 black vehicles rolled through the gate. The entire facility snapped to attention. From the lead car stepped Admiral Robert Chen. Dress whites crisp as winter, chest covered in ribbons, presence absolute. He was decorated, respected, and impossible to ignore. The formation was perfect. Every recruit stood tall. Jake positioned himself front and center, chest out, confident. This was his moment to shine. Admiral Chen moved down the line with precision. He inspected uniforms, asked questions, nodded approvingly. Everything was routine. Professional. By the book. Then he reached the garage. He paused at the entrance, scanning the space. His aide stepped forward with a tablet. "Sir, there's been an incident report." Some recruits were harassing a civilian mechanic earlier today. Base security flagged it. The Admiral's jaw tightened. "Show me." The aide pulled up photos, screenshots from the recruits' group chat, memes, mockery, a close-up of a faded tattoo with cruel captions. The Admiral's eyes widened. He zoomed in on the tattoo. His face went pale, then hard as steel. "That's impossible," he whispered. He looked up sharply. "Where is he?" The aide pointed toward the back corner. An old man in coveralls, trying to stay invisible. Admiral Chen broke from formation immediately. "Franklin Morrison?" His voice cut through the silence like a command. The entire facility froze. Every head turned. Frank stood slowly, wrench still in his hand. He looked trapped. "Sir." The Admiral crossed the space in measured steps. Every eye followed. Jake's smirk collapsed. He stopped directly in front of him. Then, in a moment that seemed to stop time, he brought his hand up in a sharp, perfect salute. Not casual, the kind reserved for legends. "Captain Morrison, it's an honor, sir." Frank hesitated, then returned the salute, his hand trembling. "I'm just a mechanic now, Admiral." "You're never just anything, sir." He held the salute longer, then dropped it and turned to face the crowd. His voice was steel. "This man is Captain Franklin J. Morrison. I served under him 20 years ago as a lieutenant. He saved my life during a classified operation." Dead silence. 42 years of service. Commander of the USS Alexandria. 3 Navy Crosses. Silver Star. Purple Heart. Jake looked like he might collapse. The Admiral gestured to Frank's tattoo. "That ink you've been mocking? Each symbol represents one of 15 sailors he pulled out of enemy waters under fire. I was one of them." He turned back to Jake, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "You've been laughing at the man who's the reason I'm standing here today." The garage remained frozen in silence. No one moved. No one breathed. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the stillness. "The recruits who mocked Captain Morrison. Step forward, now." Jake's legs felt like lead. He stepped out of formation, followed by 3 others. Their faces were pale, bodies trembling. They expected the worst, court-martial, discharge, their careers destroyed before they'd begun. The Admiral looked at Frank. "Captain, they're yours to address." Frank studied the young men in front of him. His face showed no anger, no vindictiveness, only sadness and something else. Understanding. He stepped close to Jake, who couldn't lift his eyes from the floor. "You know what the worst part was?" Frank's voice was gentle. "Not the mockery, not the disrespect. It was knowing you didn't understand what you were disrespecting. And that's not entirely your fault." Jake's throat tightened. "I was you once," Frank continued. "Young. Confident. Thought I knew everything. Then life taught me differently. Combat taught me. Losing men taught me." He looked at each recruit in turn. Every person you meet is carrying a story you can't see. Every scar, every mark, every quiet person in the corner. They've lived lives you can't imagine. Your power isn't in your rank or your youth. It's in your humility, your willingness to learn. Jake's eyes filled with tears. Sir, Frank raised a hand gently. You'll remember this. That's enough. Now go be better. The Admiral nodded approval. The formation slowly dispersed. As the garage emptied, several older staff members approached Frank. Handshakes. Quiet words. The Master Chief from earlier pulled him into a brief embrace. You still got it, Captain. That grace. Frank smiled slightly. Just trying to live up to the ink, Chief. The garage grew quiet as the sun dipped toward the horizon. Golden light streamed through the windows, cutting through the dust in the air. Frank stood alone at his workbench, rolling down his sleeve. The tattoo disappeared beneath the fabric once again. Respect isn't given because of what you can see. It's earned through what you cannot. The battles fought in silence. The sacrifices made without audience. The dignity maintained when no one's watching. Miles away, in his barracks room, Jake sat on his bunk with his phone. He'd been searching for hours. Franklin J. Morrison, USS Alexandria, Desert Storm, the classified mission, 15 sailors. Each article he read made his chest tighter. He scrolled through commendations. Photographs from decades ago. A younger Frank in dress uniform, medals gleaming, men standing beside him, men who'd be dead without him. Jake's expression shifted. Shame gave way to something harder. Determination. The screen faded to Frank's tattoo in close-up, each symbol clear now, meaningful, sacred. Text appeared over the image. Every person you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Choose respect. Always. The screen went black. If this story reminded you to look deeper, to judge less, to honor the quiet warriors among us, share it. Because somewhere, someone needs to hear this message. And maybe, just maybe, they'll think twice before dismissing the person no one else sees.